The Buckeyes' rushing attack is improving, but it needs to take another leap to reach championship form.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to your Thursday edition of Locked On Buckeyes, which is your daily Ohio State podcast. Part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, veteran sports talk host, delivering passionate coverage about your Buckeyes. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. During today's show, we will discuss the potential of the NCAA changing a rule that would benefit CJ Hicks, as well as Ryan Day's comments on Bo Jackson's ceiling. But first, the Buckeyes' rushing attack is improving, and it has shown improvement week after week. However, it must take another leap to reach championship form, which is the goal. You want to make sure that at Ohio State, every single position is at championship form, from the quarterback to the offensive line, D-line, and everything in between. You want to make sure that there aren't any holes on the team. And for the running backs, entering the year, you knew there were going to be two guys that were primarily going to be the ball carriers for the team, and CJ Donaldson and James Peoples. No one truly knew how Bo Jackson would jump onto the scene. The belief, there was a thought that he may have the highest ceiling among those three running backs, but he's a true freshman. And there's two things any true freshman running back has to deal with and must work on very hard before getting on the field. That's ball security, and that is pass protection. And those are two things that Bo Jackson has worked very hard at. And you could have seen the growth and his ability to be pretty good in pass protection. Ball security is still something that he is still working on, but there isn't a running back playing football at any level that isn't still working on ball security. So that's not just something that Ryan Day is going to preach to Bo Jackson. He's going to give it to Peoples and Donaldson and anybody else in the RB room, really anybody else that touches the ball, because securing the ball is key. But this rushing attack it's weird to put a handle on, to put a finger on and say, this is what it is. This is no, you know what it is. You might not know where it can be. Will it be what it was a year ago? Probably not, because I think Ohio State will still be using three running backs all year long. So it won't be a two-headed monster of Henderson and Judkins. I believe it'll be more of a three-headed monster in Donaldson, Peoples, and Jackson. And like we mentioned earlier in the week on this show, in regards to Bo Jackson, maybe he is better as a backup right now versus being a guy that's a starter. And I used some connections and some thoughts that came into my head from the NBA, because it's very easy to use those things. With the NBA, there are certain guys that are better off the bench versus guys that are starters. And there may be guys that are starters that need the ball in their hand the first 2 to 3 times down the court to make sure that they stay engaged, because if you don't, they're mentally not locked in. And we have seen Bo Jackson be phenomenal off the bench. The only times he has rushed for over 100 yards was when he was a backup. He was a starter last week, looked pretty good. I think they changed some play calls up that limited his productivity based off what he was doing the previous time he was on the field. But I think Bo Jackson has been fine. For the rushing attack, the numbers tell a story, but I think down the road, you might see some games where James Peoples is the lead back. You might see a game where Bo Jackson is a lead back. It's same for Donaldson. It's almost a similar thing to Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith. Whichever guy is going on that day, feed him. But do it in the flow of the offense. Don't force feed him to where the offense isn't flowing very well because you're trying to make sure somebody's happy. No, you feed him in the flow of the offense. And there may be people like you, because I know I do this all the time, where I say feed Bo, or I really had to say feed CJ. And really I ain't said feed James yet, because they haven't shown the type of running ability that Bo Jackson has already showed. But I believe that there will be times that I'll be out there tweeting with my computer right there while watching the game, where I will start saying, feed Bo. Give him the rock. Run the ball. Because if you want to make a quarterback's job easier, you want to make sure you give that man, the guys behind him, the ball. Because that's going to do certain things to the defense. That's going to dictate certain calls based off certain looks that Ohio State is doing. One thing that Tom Brady did very, very well, not only with setting up the run game, but the Patriots always used motion to try to figure out if the defense is in a man or a zone. Now, granted, they can change that post snap and it can be something that trips you up. But if going in motion allows you to get some shifting going on with the defense, well, that will help the running back get a quick picture of, okay, they're motioning to the right, but somebody's not moving, which means they might be in that gap where I was planning on going. Maybe this play is still going to be ran and we go somewhere else, or maybe we alter and call an audible. Those things are very important. So I think for the Buckeyes rushing attack, it's easy to complain, but the Buckeyes are averaging 171.6 rushing yards per game. Comparing that to the team they're playing this week, I think you'll be satisfied with not only Ohio State's rushing attack, but how they stack up to other teams. Illinois is only averaging 130.7 rushing yards per game with a pretty poor 3.7 yards per carry. Ohio State's averaging 5.1 yards a carry. So we can gripe and complain and say, oh, the rushing attack isn't good or it needs to be worked on. That is true. I'm not saying it's not. What's also true is that the rushing attack, while it needs to improve, has done a lot of things pretty well this year. Some numbers for you on the guys that are the three lead backs for Ohio State. Bo Jackson leads the way in among these three in carries, rushing yards per carry. He doesn't lead the team in rushing touchdowns, though. Bo Jackson has 48 carries, 360 yards, 7.5 yards a pop, and 2 touchdowns. Donaldson, 45 carries, 193 rushing yards, 4.3 yards a pop, and 4 touchdowns. The last part might shock you. James Peoples has 35 carries, 195 rushing yards, 5.6 yards a pop. So he has 10 less carries than Donaldson, but has a higher yards per carry average and has 2 more rushing yards. And that is a big reason why. And I didn't even know that before putting this show together. I think that's a big reason why you might see Peoples more often than you see Donaldson. And by the middle of the year, well, more so in November, when you get to Penn State and beyond, all those games in November, you might see a scenario where Bo Jackson starts and Peoples is the first back off the bench, and Donaldson turns into your short yardage back. But where he's not only a short yardage back, that might be his role for this team. And one thing Shaquille O'Neal always says, another basketball reference here on the show, is that you cannot win a championship without the others. You can't. And you think about what Shaq did with the Lakers and in Miami, it was the others. You had an older Gary Payton there in Miami who was very pivotal and big for the Heat to win the NBA Finals. You had in this three-peat with the Lakers, guys like Derek Fisher and Devin George. I haven't said that name in a long time. You had guys that were the others, Robert Horry, Big Shot Bob. You had guys that were the perfect role players for that team, for the team to win not 1, not 2, but 3 NBA championships. And if Ohio State wants to win back-to-back national championships, they're going to have to get the running game to get up to speed a little bit quicker. I know the numbers aren't bad, but the numbers can be better. And I think it's the biggest thing for this team to do to get the championship form is to figure out the right rotation, figure out how to get one guy hot and figure out what he works best with, and then roll with the punches. The best thing about Ohio State's schedule is you have not so much the next 2 games being on the road, but there is an off week in between the road trip to Camp Randall and then the home game against Penn State. Because I think that game is going to be a big statement for Ohio State. I have Ohio State winning that game. I'll make that known here early on, a few weeks before that game is played. I think Ohio State wins. Not sure by how much, but I do think in that game you could see Ohio State, instead of trying to throw the ball all around the yard, try to set the tone in the trenches. Speaking of the trenches, that goes into a little bit about Bo Jackson's ceiling, which Ryan Day talked about. And I think you will enjoy the comments Ryan Day made about number 25, the true freshman running back at The Ohio State University. This episode is brought to you by Supply House. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, Get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Need parts fast for a project? Supply House has next-day delivery. Talk about a game changer. The part finder tools and 3D schematics can save you hours on jobs where every detail matters. Their Trademaster perks, like priority shipping and dedicated support, make the whole process smoother. Join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. This episode is also brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Guys, the NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love how FanDuel gives me so many ways to play. I built parlays, tried player props, and even followed the live lines during games. It makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app and get started. Thank you all for tapping and Locked On Buckeyes and making this show your first listen of the day. Ohio State's rushing attack is getting better. I think it will continue to take strides and get better. I think the rotation is very pivotal to that, but also there's something else that goes with the rushing attack that I want to tackle a little bit later after touching on Ryan Day's comments about Ohio State's new starting running back in Bo Jackson. And Ryan Day is a man that likes what he sees. And here's what Ryan Day had to say about Bo Jackson, Ohio State's new starting running back. Quote, when you go from being a role player or a backup to being the guy, it's just the workload, the number of carries, the expectation. We're all excited about Bo. His teammates see it. We see it. The talent is there. The work ethic is there. The way he practices is indicative of the way he plays. I still think there's a huge ceiling here. The more he plays, the better he gets, end quote. And I think when it comes to Bo Jackson, I'm with Ryan Day. I also think there's a huge ceiling with Bo Jackson. And it's not just because of what people said about him in training camp or even during spring practice. It's what we have seen with our own eyeballs in Ohio State's first 5 games Ohio State has played this year. Where Bo Jackson hasn't played in all of those games, one thing you have seen is when he got on the field, he easily turns 2-yard gains into 8-yard gains. His vision is there. He finds a way to get skinny through the hole, and the next thing you know, he's skirting through the second level, making a big gain. Over and over and over again, he is turning things that most running backs would not be able to create turn into long runs. He is doing that. It's not just that part. I think there's a speed element to him. I think there's a physicality element to him. I think he is more of your Ohio State running back, an Ohio State running back that you hadn't really had in a while. Because Judkins is more of a typical Ohio State running back, but he wasn't faster. Henderson is freakishly fast and athletic, but he wasn't the most bruising back. He wasn't the more all-around running back until really his final year. But even then, he was still known for his speed, but he did get a whole lot better running between the tackles and being an elite blocker as a running back. And I think for Bo Jackson, his ceiling is high. It's a huge ceiling for that young man, but he can't stop here. And I think about with Bo Jackson, I think speaking of TreVeyon Henderson's freshman year, yes, he broke some records that Maurice Clarett set, which put him up on a big-time pedestal, but he started to hit a wall during his freshman year. And there were some things that he was dealing with, along with some injuries, that kind of set him back. Now, aside from the injuries, you go from playing high school ball, and I don't believe Henderson even had a senior season of high school football because of the COVID. So that kind of even maybe impacted him during his freshman year because it had been a while since homie had been hit. I think with Henderson's freshman year, Ryan Day learned some lessons. Now you have to keep it in context with the COVID, but still, there were some walls that he hit. There were some obstacles that he struggled to overcome. And I think you're trying to learn from those experiences with Henderson, but also try to help protect, but also push the young running back in Bo Jackson. Because if Ryan Day didn't have to deal with some of the things he had to deal with as a head coach with Trevion Henderson, I don't know if he properly handles a Bo Jackson situation this year. And that may mean that he would have played week 1 against Texas. I don't know. But I do know the more he plays, the better the running game is for Ohio State. Also, the more James Peoples plays, it seems like the running back, he helps Bo Jackson and also pushes Bo Jackson too. The one thing that I think is going to help the running game, including Bo Jackson, is getting the right guard position correct. Because the more I think about the rushing attack, I don't put all of that on the running backs. I put a lot on the running, the guys that are opening holes for the running backs and the offensive linemen, because still, here we are. We're almost a year and a half of trying to figure out who the right person is at right guard. Think about it, a year ago. There was a reason why you rotated primarily at right guard, Tegra and Austin Saraville. Because Tegra never really got it all put together. And Austin Saraville made it clear that he had solidified himself as a starter. So Ohio State literally had to rotate 6 guys in the playoff, a lot of those due to injury, but it was also because there was a guy at right guard that was easily the weakest link, and it was better to rotate at that position than allow him to play 60 to 70 snaps a game. What do you have this year once again? The guy at right guard opened the year rotating with the guy that used to play tackle. You are rotating with the man that when he got to Ohio State, he was probably, 350? I don't know Oniano's correct weight right now, but he ain't 350. And what we're looking at right now with Tegra is a man that's good. Well, he's solid, but he is still not good enough to be on the field consistently. I mean, last week they rotated Josh Padilla because Ryan Day said Josh Padilla deserves to play. Okay, cool, great. He deserves to play. But he didn't rotate at center. He rotated at right guard. The one position on the offensive line that has clearly been seen as the weakest position of the 5 on the offensive line. Also, you're not going to rotate at center. That's a good way to get your offense to, not be sound, not move the ball down the field, to punt the ball in consecutive drives, because that's not just a security blanket for the quarterback. That's the quarterback of the offensive line. And if you change centers and the new guy comes in and isn't able to quickly depict and describe what's happening so everyone's on the same page with the line calls, it could lead to disaster. I think for the rushing attack, and even for Bo Jackson to hit his ceiling this year, you got to get right guard correct. And I don't know if Oniano is the right guy for right guard. Josh Padilla might be that guy. I don't understand why you may want to, I'm not saying they're coddling Tegra Shabola, because I don't think Ryan Day has the desire to coddle any of the players. But maybe it's to keep them mentally engaged. I don't know. But to me, Tegra is a guy that's getting better, but is still showing at times that when he's on the interior of the offensive line, we notice him because he's not the strongest guy there. If Josh Padilla is the answer, I would not be shocked if at some point he starts and then you see Tegra rotating as a backup. Why? Because maybe that's what needs to happen for the run game to be everything it could be. For CJ Hicks to be everything he can be, I think the red shirt is the right move for him. However, the NCAA might make a rule that will benefit CJ Hicks' eligibility. We'll dive into that next. This episode is brought to you by our friends at Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride, with more IHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else as of August 2025. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details. Mazda brings the same attention to how we craft every model. With all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through through almost any season. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. This episode is also brought to you by Quo. One of the tools that help make a huge difference for business owners is Quo, formerly Open Phone. It's the same great business phone system you heard me talk about before, just with the new name. And here's why it matters. Every missed call is money left on the table. When every customer conversation counts, you need a phone system that keeps you connected 24/7. Quo is the number one business phone system that streamlines customer communications. It works right through an app on your phone or computer. So no more carrying two phones or relying on a landline. I love how Quo, formerly known as Open Phone, let your team share one number and collaborate on calls and texts like a shared inbox, so no customer gets left hanging. Their built-in AI agent is a game changer. It can answer after-hours calls, capture leads, and keep business moving even when you're off the clock. See why over 90,000 businesses trust Quo, formerly Open Phone. Get started free and get 20% off your first 6 months at quo.com/lockedoncollege. That's QUO.com/lockedoncollege. And if you've got existing numbers with another service, Quo will port them over at no extra charge. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. Thank you all for tapping Locked on Buckeyes and making this show your first listen of the day. One thing we know about Ryan Day is he's always looking forward. He's trying to figure out how to handle what coming next because this sport is ever changing. I mentioned this before, but Ryan Day took over for Urban Meyer in 2019 after the Buckeyes beat the Washington Huskies in the Rose Bowl. Fitting way for Urban Meyer to go out, winning the granddaddy of them all. Well, when Ryan Day took over, there was no transfer portal. There was no NIL. You didn't even have to deal with the COVID situation. Those three things drastically changed college football. And now there went from being two transfer portal windows, which I really didn't hate, to only one, which I like more. But that one portal window is going to be open during the college football season, which doesn't make any sense. If you missed my reaction to the NCAA ruling changing the portal window, there's a show on the YouTube and wherever you get your fine podcasts reacting to that news. Well, there may be some more news coming up from the NC2A in regards to, well, eligibility. Because I actually forgot that this was even on the table, where the NC2A had been discussing the possibility of allowing collegiate athletes to have 5 years of eligibility instead of 4. Where, okay, 4 years, 5 years, does it really matter? No. But the NC2A is trying to do things to make the players happy. Well, one, I don't know how you make the players happy with having the portal open during the season, but what do I know? I know that if the NCAA allows there to be, and moves to having 5 years of eligibility into 4. Oh, another rule is the whole being able to transfer whenever you want to. Is because before you could transfer, but you had to, you could only transfer once, and you had to sit out a year. And then all of a sudden, you can transfer as much as you want to. It's just another thing that popped into my head about how the sport has changed a lot since Ryan Day took over. If the NC2A decided to change and go from having 4 years of eligibility to 5, I see a scenario where CJ Hicks plays this year. While this is his 4th year, and redshirting preserves the 4 games he played this year and would allow him to play next year. If they say, no, you got 5 years, Hicks would play. And that would add another wrinkle to an already elite defense. And if they keep this up through the Illinois game and the Wisconsin game, we're going to be on this show discussing how historic of a year the team has had so far and how they stack up to some of the better defenses in college football history. We'll focus on a lot of the stuff happening in the CFP era and then the BCS era because those are the only true times when there has been a true national championship game. But I think if you add CJ Hicks, who someone kind of said he's baby Micah Parsons, I don't know if that's even true because we have not seen enough of that on the field to say, oh, that is correct. But if there is a glimpse of baby Micah Parsons in CJ Hicks, and the NCAA decides to change another rule and for there to be 5 years of eligibility instead of 4, watch out Penn State. Watch out Michigan. Watch out all these teams on Ohio State's schedule that are going to try to make the playoff, but also try to play spoiler to Ohio State season. Watch out. I do not think there's going to be a scenario where he's going to jump over guys like Keanu Jackson Jr., Caden Curry, Bo Atkinson, Logan George. I don't think so. I don't really think he's going to jump over Arvo Reese playing on the edge occasionally. And he might not jump over Zion Grady. Just throwing it out there, too. I don't know if that's going to happen because Ryan Day even praised Zion Grady and Logan George for how they played against Minnesota because they got up there, they got after it, they made some plays, they did what they're supposed to do. But Hicks is a guy that will drastically benefit from this. Also, for his future, a guy that doesn't really have enough film to even be thought about as an NFL prospect, if they do go to 5 years over 4, what happens with Hicks's time going and trying to be in the NFL? You're going to have a guy who's going to be playing on a team at Ohio State that can put together a year and a half of solid film, assuming he is a guy that takes all the necessary steps in the offseason and he does not transfer, to get on the field consistently. So I honestly, this will be a great move. I mean, Hicks is not the only guy that's redshirting right now. Malik Harford is another one. I can see both guys staying. I can see both guys going into the portal at the end of the year. I can see both scenarios happening, and I really wouldn't care. I would say do what's best for you. Do what's best for you. You talk to your family, talk to the coaches, talk to those in your circle, and do what's best for you. I believe CJ Hicks has a kid, so I wouldn't be shocked if he decided to stay local because, well, do you really like moving to a new area with a kid? You're in college playing football. That's a lot to deal with because you're not there all the time. You got to make sure there's babysitters and there's food and all the things. There's a lot, man. There is a lot. So if it happens, great. If it doesn't, it doesn't. No matter what, getting Hicks on the field for one more year after this would be great for everybody involved, especially for a young man that has aspirations to play in the NFL. And right now, if he played this year, it's not going to happen. Now, it could happen if he had a monster second half of the year, but he didn't show enough in the first 4 games of the year to show that he was going to be a strong force of the Buckeyes defense. Could he be down the road? Absolutely, he could be. The NCAA, I believe they changed another rule that will allow college athletes to gamble on pro sports. I think that's a little tricky. I don't normally touch on the gambling. That's not really or sports betting. That's not really my expertise. I don't do it. I've done it a little bit, dabbled here and there, but it's not my cup of tea. I feel like that could lead to a slippery slope for collegiate athletics. Now, if what I saw read was correct, that was a D1 council that was okay with it. It couldn't go into effect until the D2 and D3 levels also approved it. So it could happen. It might not happen. I think that's more of a thing where you want to say yes because they're not at that level, but also you want to say no because there are connections some people have to those at the next level. But we'll see. We'll see. This is a weird time in sports. I'm grateful for FanDuel. I'm grateful for what they do. They actually help some of us prep for shows and things like that with some of the numbers and some of the betting lines they put up. We'll discuss some of those in the future. Heisman betting favorites, Dixon Championship betting favorites to make the CFP, all that kind of stuff, national championship. So we'll discuss all those things here on the show. This feels weird. I don't know how to handle it. It's not a FanDuel thing. It's NCAA. I tried my best to defend the NC2A because a lot of people talk bad about it, but sometimes the NC2A puts it on themselves and they cause people to have no other choice than to kind of talk bad about them. I'm not a person that tries to do that, but Sometimes it happens. What also happens is Locked On has a lot of big moments, and they're in the midst of another one right now because Locked On and Fire TV present College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football weekly preview. Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12 leads the conversation alongside two-time AP Coach of the Year Gary Patterson, former college star Jesse Holley, and Locked On's local experts. Yours truly will actually be on the show that comes out this Thursday discussing why Ohio State will beat Illinois on Saturday. It's a college football preview only Locked On can do. Catch College Football Kickoff every Thursday throughout the season only on Fire TV. You can follow me on any social media platform or jstevens07. Send every email to jstevens317@gmail.com. This has been Locked On Buckeyes on a Thursday. We'll see you next time.